the successor agency of the former community redevelopment agency of the city of Santa Ana. That's quite a, well, we haven't come up with a good acronym, right? Why don't we go ahead and do a pledge, and board member Acosta will be unveil the resolution.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, John. Madam Secretary, will you please call roll?
Chairman Sarmiento,
Here.
Vice Chair Morley,
Here.
Board Member Acosta,
Present.
Board Member Hardash, Board Member Higley, Board Member Jimenez,
Here.
Board Member Tinajero. We have four.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And let me start by saying thank you to our board members for being flexible with us. I understand that we had to reschedule from yesterday or the day before, so thank you all for being here. Thank you to staff for making this meeting as quickly as possible. So I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to move the consent calendars, item 1 and 2.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Moving along to the business calendar, that's item number 3, the resolution authorizing the refunding of the tax allocation bonds series 2003 A and B and 2011 A. I'll turn it over to staff for presentation.
Thank you, Board Member. I'll do a short history on where we've been to get to this point, and then I'll turn it over to Fran. And then also we had Mr. Michael Bush here. Two different series were issued in 2003, Series A and Series B. Some of you may recall that in June 14th of 2016, the Oversight Board did an initial approval and presentation of the refunding of these bonds. The successor agency then approved the refunding of the bonds, and then the Oversight Board adopted the bond financing documents. The city received approval for the Department of Finance, a requirement that we have today to proceed with the refunding. And then the underwriter and the bond counsel at that time advised the city to place this on hold pending some litigation. Now I'll turn it over to Fran, who can give you a little more history on where we're going from that point.
So obviously the litigation resulting from the Cuenca case, if people recall, the Cuenca case of low and moderate income housing, where they were challenging DOF's basically the elimination of about $30 million in what they considered non-enforceable obligations. So that was the litigation. That took a while. Obviously, it was in the courts, and therefore delayed the entire process. So, but now we have another opportunity, as we are now looking at refunding the 2011 tax allocation bonds as well, and this provides now another opportunity to restart the process, if you will, and to advance this forward. I will turn this over to Michael Bush. He's the Chief Executive Officer for our financial advisor from UFI, Urban Futures Financial Solutions, and he can provide you more detail in terms of the tax allocation bonds and what we're looking at in terms of savings in the future.
So before you do that, Fran, can you give us just a little bit of history on Cuenca? Was that the predecessor to Peebler or completely separate? Does this even involve any of the South Main monies or?
No.
It was separate.
Okay.
Yeah. The problem, the reason we did not move forward is that the bond counsel at the time, as well as the underwriters, were concerned about a clawback. In other words, if in fact the courts had favored in the Cuenca case, that the city would be responsible in paying those monies back to the projects. So that's why everything was placed on hold until that case got settled out. And eventually that case was settled out in favor of the city.
Thank you, Fran. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as Mr. Mendoza pointed out, we've been before you before to talk about, it was roughly half of this transaction. A little bit more color on the 2003 bonds. The litigation was resolved, I don't know, 6 to 8 months ago or so. At the time, the market was very volatile. We were continuing to communicate with staff on the opportunity to refinance the bonds. It was determined that it wasn't a good time. And as the market has since calmed down a little bit, a lot less volatility, We started looking a little bit deeper, and then we started looking actually at the 2011 bonds that are also on your agenda tonight. So a little bit about the 2003 bonds and a little bit about the 2011 bonds. The 2003 bonds have interest rates ranging from 4.5% to 5%, and the 2011 bonds have an interest rate ranging from 5 to 6.5%. What you're being asked to take action on or consideration on today is a refinancing of both of those bonds. It's a straight interest rate refinancing, no extension of terms, no new money, simple interest rate savings. We have determined based on current market rates, we believe the transaction can be refinanced with an all-in true interest cost, and all-in refers to all fees and everything being included in the transaction, for about 3.78%. So a significant amount of savings from the current interest rates. We believe also the total savings is roughly about 5%. And from a cash flow perspective, it is fairly significant. It is about $19.9 million in total. We've kind of broken that down for the city just to put it in perspective. We've not broken it down for other taxing entities, but it's about $4 million to the city over the life of the bonds, which will run through about 2031. The requirements of DOF are included in your package. As you'll probably note, a little bit different than the last time you reviewed a transaction like this. You have a package that includes all of the documents that will be reviewed by the successor agency, I think on the 17th of next month. We decided, based on input from council, that the order we're going in, typically the order is a little bit different. They go first and then we come here. We decided that it was in the best interest of all parties that this group see everything that they are going to see as part of that approval, which is why you have the indenture and some of the other documents that typically you would not see. If action is approved today, we'll go back to the successor agency board and ask for approval to go forward. Once that occurs, we will then submit basically these executed documents and resolutions to the Department of Finance. Unfortunately, we have to start the 60-day review process all over again, even though we've had approval on the 03s. They'll want that because of the time difference. It's been a while, plus that we're adding a new series of bonds. We anticipate that could be a little shorter than that. We have recently completed a transaction for the city of Oakland, and they reviewed those documents in 3 weeks. So it's possible that we can accelerate the schedule. We will do that if that's possible for us, but we anticipate transactions like this take about 120 days from the date of approval by both boards to execution. The savings, again, assumes rates as of today. We monitor those, and we stay in contact with your staff throughout that process. There are some not-to-exceed amounts included in the resolution, as you'll see, but those amounts tie basically to making sure there's still significant savings. If the not-to-exceed amounts are exceeded in the marketplace, we stop. We don't go forward. We'll have to come back to you and the other boards and ask if they want to move forward with a different level of assumption on savings. But I don't see a case where we would reduce the savings below 3%, given where the market is and the volatility that we've been through to this point. But you never know. It takes a couple crazy tweets and some world events, and then we're back into volatile market again. But we do watch it on a regular basis. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but again, it's fairly straightforward. The total amount of the par amount of the refunding is about $73 million, and again, the savings is roughly about $20 million of that amount.
Great, thank you for that presentation. I'll go ahead and open it up to the board for discussion. Board members, any questions? Anything further from staff? Okay. So there's time sensitivity to this, I understand.
Doing time sensitivity in that we wanted our local oversight board to approve this action. Otherwise, as of next week, we have to consolidate into a countywide oversight board. We have no information as of yet as to who comprises that board, when the first meeting might be. That's why we wanted to bring this to our local board first.
And given the sensitivity to the interest rates, that's part of the reason as well. So the faster we can get approvals and submit it to the DOF, the faster we can lock in on the transaction.
So we're going to be getting a significantly lower interest rate as we blend the 03 and the 11
Yes.
bonds. It looks like 4.5% to 5% for the 03. We're at about 5 to 6 3/4 on the 11, and it looks like blended on both of those are about 3.5. When you say we were realizing some savings in the amount of 20 million, what happens to that? Where is that? Where
Well,
does that go?
in terms of, do you have the numbers for the city of Santa Ana?
Yeah, I can cover that. Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at just the documents, but I have the information in my head because I've looked at it so many times. This guy makes me look at everything 5
But is
times.
it in our packet, or do we?
It should be in the staff report, I believe. Yeah.
One of the last 2 pages in the packet.
You know what page that?
3-147.
Go to the end.
So it's 3-147 for.
Let's see what you guys are looking at here. Yeah, so this is a accumulation of the savings. So you'll see the difference in the existing payments versus the new estimated payments. The savings, it's a good question. The savings will be allocated on an annual basis to each taxing agency under the prorated share that they currently receive. There is an option for upfront savings that we'll be talking to the staff about as we get closer to a pricing. What that would do is just accelerate the savings to the taxing agencies, where we basically front load a lot of it. In this case, where we typically see that desire is one of 2 things. Short transactions typically want the savings up front if they can. And then secondly, if there's a need for budget relief or projects that people want to use the savings for, then we typically are asked to look at that. The difference between the two, there is a slight reduction in overall savings when you advance it. In total, it could be about as much as $1.5 million. But again, it depends on interest rate. And at the time that we get ready to price, we'll sit down with the staff and we'll go through the 2 options and we'll see what direction they choose to go.
Mr. Chairman, I think the question is, where does it come from? There were 3 elements. It's the interest rate, unspent bond proceeds, and unexpended reserve funds.
Right.
That creates the 19 million.
Okay.
That's right, Tom.
And then that 20 million is going to be spread throughout the taxing agencies and authorities. What's our share of that?
$4 million.
It just reduces debt service
Right.
accordingly, and everybody benefits to the extent of that.
And my question that I'm probably thinking about is that how is that forecasted in our future expenses, and have we?
It's currently not calculated within our forecast because obviously we haven't gotten the approvals. So once the approvals come in, we will actually incorporate it within our forecast. Once we get something back from the Department of Finance and we close, then it's basically, then we'll realize it.
So, well, not the realization. I'm talking about the debt service that we would have had we remained under
Oh,
the
yeah, it's on
present
your rocks.
rates.
Yes,
It'll
we,
remain on the roll.
yeah, those will, yeah, we will continue to pay that. We will get the money to pay that, basically, as enforceable obligation.
Okay.
So let me expand on that one little bit. I think I understand a little bit more. So the the agency will still continue to get its allocation of RPTTF. What they'll do now is they'll give you a reduction in RPTTF for the purpose of enforceable obligations. It'll be based on the actual debt service. The balance will go into a residual account that'll be shared amongst all the taxing agencies. So the total tax increment basically remains the same, just the obligations are reduced and the residual is larger. The residual is basically your general fund dollars that go to the other taxing agencies.
Okay. So it's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. It's hard not to be supportive of good things. We don't have many these days, so. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to adopt item number 3.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously, and that ends our business calendar. Seeing no members of the public, we'll go to staff member comments. Anybody on staff like to make a comment?
I want to thank the Oversight Board for all of your service. This is your last official meeting.
Oh, is that right?
As the county will take this on from now. We're not sure what that formation is yet, but the July 1 date is important. And I want to thank all of you for making yourself available today. I really do appreciate it.
So this is your first meeting, and this is our last meeting. How does that work? You should have came on earlier.
You get to take one hat off. Yes.
Well, no, well, thank you. Thank you all for your service. I'll go ahead and reserve mine. Any board members like to say anything? Since this is your last meeting? Speak now or forever. You may not get this opportunity
Before you
again.
got here, they wondered where the party was.
All right, right. Go, yeah, we have some coffee back there. That'll work. Board member Wynn? any-
I just want to say thank you to everybody.
Yeah. So my parting shot will be thank you for all your hard work. I know that the work's going to continue on your end, but we were happy to serve, and I want to thank my board members for being patient with us as we, calendared things sometimes on very short notice. Had a lot of material for you to cover, but I think we did a very good public service here, and thank you all for your help, and let us know if you need anything else. And with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.